Namaskar. Thank you, Dr. Milind Kulkarni and Rotarians of Mumbai Green City for inviting me for this speech on how we can transform our diet, and through diet transformation, how can we transform ourselves. I'm going to start sharing my screen here so that you should see this screen which says transformation through diet purification. Okay, then I'll request all of you to mute your microphones so that there is no background noise and the recording goes on very well. I will try to speak for about half an hour to 45 minutes, and after that we can take questions. So let us see if I can start with this disclaimer as I always do. You see, the information here is not intended for the purpose of providing any medical advice. All information, content and material I'm presenting are for your information and not intended to serve as a substitute for consultation, diagnosis or medical treatment of a qualified physician or an experienced healthcare provider. I'm only presenting my personal experience and I don't assume any liability. Also, I should also tell you that whenever we hear something from somebody, there are 3 criteria I always like to follow. When I listen to somebody, whom should I listen to? Number one, the person who is telling me whatever he is telling me, he or she has experienced what they are telling me. So let's talk about the truth. If there is a truth, then the person who is telling me that truth has to have experienced the truth. Secondly, in return for that telling the truth, that person should not expect anything in return from me. Okay? And then thirdly, there should be absolutely no self-interest, in the sense whatever that person is telling me, it should be in my interest. Okay? So that should be for my benefit. So when these 3 criteria are met, then I should listen to that person, closing my eyes and follow blindly whatever he is telling me. That's what truth is all about. The second thing about truth is, you see, if something is true, then it is true. Whether I believe in it, whether I know it, whether I want it, or whether I like it or not, it is the truth. All right. So I'll give you a very small story about this. I have given this in the past, but worth repeating. You see, if we run into an owl is awake at night and during the day, the owl is asleep, right? So if we have an argument with the owl that there is something called the sun in the sky, what will the owl say? Hopefully all of you understand Hindi. If he were to speak to us in Hindi, he would say, "Oye उल्लू के पट्टे, तुझे कुछ नहीं पता. सूर्य नाम की कोई वस्तु होती नहीं है." So you don't know anything. There is no such thing as the sun. Okay, so if the owl has not experienced the sun, does that mean that the sun does not exist? Okay, so in the same manner, if we do not know something, all we can and we should say is, I do not know it. If I say I do not know it, then I will want to find out. So then find out the truth. Okay? So I'm going to tell you my entire story of transformation, which started with diet purification. And Milind has heard this before, but he wanted me to share this story with a larger group, with his friends. So I'm pleased to be here. So the presentation outline is going to be like this. Why do we do all this? Why to do all this? And I'll talk about fundamental principles. I'll talk about raw food or natural food, which I consume. I'll talk about yoga, my experience with yoga. And I'll also talk about my experience with the Gita, that is Bhagavad Gita. And then how this has all resulted in a startup based in Pune right now. The CEO of the startup, Pooja Keswani, happens to be here. She's a partner. So we are doing this together. And then some concluding remarks. So why do we do all these things? Why do we do anything in life? Okay. We do things in life because we seek happiness. So our new friend has joined this Rotary Club. Why has she joined the Rotary Club today? Because she wants to be happy, because by joining Rotary Club, she will be happy, isn't it? If she thought that by joining the Rotary Club, she would be unhappy, will she join? She will not join. So whoever is joining the Rotary Club is joining because they want to be happy. If anybody wants to leave the Rotary Club, they want to leave the Rotary Club because they want to be happy, right? Unfortunately, what happens is most of us are satisfied only with the diluted version of happiness. That diluted version of happiness is basically temporary pleasures. So these pleasures could be of the body, which is in Sanskrit called kama, or they could be of the mind, which in Sanskrit can be related to artha. All right. So these pleasures, the temporary pleasures, are limited in time. So anything that starts at time t equal to t1 and ends at time t equal to t2, during that time, it will give us happiness or it will give us pleasure. Before that time, because we don't have it, we are anxious to get it, we are doing something to get it. So therefore, at that time, we are not happy. Once we have it, then we are happy. But then during that time, we are always concerned that this thing or this event or this person might disappear at some time, isn't it? So during that time also there is anxiety. And then once that time T2 is over, then definitely unhappy, because whatever we had, we don't have it anymore. So that's why we are always looking for diluted version of this happiness. We don't really know what happiness means. All right. So dissatisfaction with these things will lead us to seek higher happiness. That higher happiness is basically permanent, it's eternal, and is bliss. That is our essential nature. I will get to this towards the end of the presentation. But happiness doesn't happen because of a thing. So for example, a lot of us, or a lot of you, I should say, like to drink tea. Right? If I don't like to drink tea, then drinking tea will not give me the same pleasure or happiness as it gives you, right? So therefore, is the happiness in the tea? No. When that tea came in contact with my tongue, that's when I became happy, right? So therefore, happiness is not in a thing, but it's an inner experience we experience once that thing and whatever we are experiencing that thing with, they come together. Okay. So that bliss is actually within us. That is our true nature, which is only unfolded through a regulated lifestyle that is aligned with natural law. So this is what we should be doing and we should be pursuing. If we understand why we are pursuing this, then it's easy to pursue whatever we are pursuing, right? So let's talk about some fundamental principles here. You see, based on my many years of work in the environmental engineering, environmental sciences, environmental management field, I have learned this. If we observe nature, you will see organisms naturally programmed for health. Okay, each organism is naturally programmed for health, which is necessary for that organism's survival and propagation. Okay. The other thing we have understood or we observe in nature is every organism will consume whatever food is appropriate for it. So therefore, a tiger is not going to eat grass unless, of course, he is an upset stomach, or a cow is not going to chase a rabbit and eat the rabbit. So each organism will consume food appropriate for it. Now, this rule unfortunately doesn't apply to human beings, because if you go to any bookstore or any library, you will see that one of the largest sections happens to be of diet. Even after millions of years of evolution, man has still not understood what is proper to eat. Okay. The other main observation is no animal, no organism will ever consume or collect anything more than necessary. So if two dogs are fighting, they may fight over a piece of meat or a piece of bread. The stronger dog may chase away the weaker dog and eat the piece of bread or meat. But once this dog's stomach is full, then he is not going to bother about taking the remaining portion home in a carry bag or whatever. Then it will let the other dog eat it. So therefore, no animal will consume more than what is necessary to satisfy the hunger. See, even for tigers and lions, when they eat a deer, for example, once they eat whatever they need to eat or they want to eat to satisfy their hunger, then the remaining portion is eaten by foxes, jackals, any, birds, and then ultimately ants and microorganisms, right? The tiger won't even look at it. That's how nature works. Now, all organisms have the natural intelligence to accept and assimilate what is necessary or beneficial material. See, even in our case, even if we eat junk, if we eat a lot of junk, what will happen? Or even if we eat something poisonous, our body will immediately throw it away. If it is junk food that can go through the system, then the body will let it go through the system, but it will not be converted into what is necessary for the body. See, according to Ayurveda, food is converted into 7 different, what they call dhatus, or essential elements for building the body. So this transformation does not take place when we eat junk food. When we eat proper food, then the transformation takes place properly and it shows through radiant health. All right. The other intelligence we all have is reject and excrete unnecessary or harmful material. So if the material is not all that harmful, it will go through the system and we will excrete it the right way. If it is really harmful, then we will throw it up. So the body will not even let that material go through our system. That's how intelligent our body is. We don't really think of our body in this manner. All right. So these are some fundamental principles you should all keep in mind. We should all keep in mind all the time. So after understanding these principles and after thinking about what would be the appropriate diet for human beings, I happen to be a chemical engineer, process engineer, environmental engineer. I said, if all these animals are eating whatever is provided to them by nature, what is provided by nature for me as a human being? Then I realized that whatever food is available in nature, which I can consume without much transformation or without any transformation, if I can, that would be the best for me, because then from the environmental point of view, the energy footprint or the energy efficiency will be great. So energy footprint will be 0, or energy footprint will be as little as possible, and the energy efficiency will be as much as possible. So what is the food produced by nature? It is produced through photosynthesis. Photosynthesis means the soil, the water, and the air, they all come together, and the molecules in these 3 elements are transformed magically by the sunlight. So all 4 elements have come together: the earth, the water, the air, and energy. Prithvi, Jala, Vayu, and Agni, they all come together. They magically, through the process of photosynthesis, all these wonderful things are created, which we call food. See, they are also organisms, by the way. So a plant that is producing, let's just say banana, is also an organism. That organism has the intelligence to convert the molecules from the earth, the water, and the air magically into banana, which is food for us. So the food produced through photosynthesis is number 1, fruits. That's the best thing for us to eat. Okay, so most of our diet should actually be fruits. That's what I end up eating. The second is soaked nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds, you can eat raw, but what you will have to do, once you eat a nut or a seed, you'll have to keep it in your mouth for some time to soak it in your saliva and then chew it. Only then you can digest it. Otherwise, you cannot digest it. Right? So to help in that process, what I typically do is I'll soak my nuts and seeds overnight, and then the next day I will eat them. So they are juicy, crunchy, and sweet. Okay, some seeds will start sprouting, like for example, mung beans, mung dal, that will start sprouting. The freshly sprouted mung dal tastes really, really wonderful. I don't know how many people have tried it raw. You should not overeat, of course. You should eat only what you can digest. But all of this food, when you chew it well enough, it has its own natural taste, which is wonderful. The third thing we can eat is vegetables that are ready to be eaten as they are without cooking. So some vegetables that cannot be eaten without cooking, they will simply fall away from our diet, right? The fourth thing is sprouted grains and lentils. So these are the four things that fall within raw natural food, which is ideally the best food for human beings. Okay. The second thing about raw food is natural food contains enzymes useful for digestion. So each biological cell contains the enzymes necessary for autodigestion. All right. So those enzymes come to us through the food we eat. So to digest that food, we don't have to synthesize our own enzymes. So therefore, our digestion process becomes more energy efficient. Okay. So this whole process of producing food and digesting food is an energy efficient process. No additional energy input for processing. And then this food, once you get used to it, is juicy, tasty, and full of life energy. You will not understand this only by my telling you this. Okay, you have to experience all these things also. So therefore, after understanding all this, what are the fundamental rules of diet I follow? Number one, if you follow just this one rule, then the other rules will become apparent to you. Okay? They will become evident to you, self-evident to you. So number one, don't eat unless you are hungry. Okay? So whenever we put anything in our mouth, even if we are walking by the kitchen or the fridge, and you see something which you really like, before putting that thing into your mouth, just ask yourself, am I really hungry? If I'm not hungry, I should not eat it. That is the number one rule, because that is the number one rule that is followed in nature by every organism other than Homo sapiens. Second rule, don't drink unless thirsty. Most of us have been told that you should drink 8 glasses of water or whatever amount. That is not correct. We are staying in air conditioned rooms all over throughout the day, all our life, of course, many of us. So am I getting as much thirsty as somebody who is working on the street and doing physical labor? No. So the person who is doing physical labor on the street will get more thirsty and should drink more water. But if I'm sitting in front of the computer and talking to you in an air conditioned room, even in summer, I'm wearing this jacket, I don't need to drink as much water. So I should drink only when I'm thirsty. Third rule, do not eat past the first burp. Okay, so when we are hungry, then our stomach is empty. All right. When we start putting food into the stomach, then what will happen? The air in the stomach will get compressed. Where will the air grow? The air will come out of the mouth as a burp, which typically happens when the stomach is about half filled with food. We should stop at that time. So our sisters who are here who use the mixie in their kitchen, what do? They put the coconut and the coriander and some spices and everything, and they add a little bit of water, but they don't fill up the entire bowl, mixer bowl, with all this material. They fill it up only about half of it. Okay. So therefore, we should fill this up about half with food and a little bit of water. So while eating, if we need to drink water, we may sip water. As far as I'm concerned, because I'm eating natural food is full of water. In fact, most of my food is mostly water, 70-80% water in the food I eat. So I don't need to drink any other water besides this. In fact, all day long, I don't need to drink much water at all. Even if I have to drink water, I just sip it. Maybe just like Achaman we do, we take maybe 2 or 3 spoonsful and we sip it. That's it. Okay. The rest of the space in the stomach has to be left open for digestive juices and air. So digestive juices will get secreted into the stomach when we eat the food. That is a natural process. So we should let that happen. So once we experience the first burp, we should stop eating. Then we should let that food digest properly. It will take about 4, 5, 6 hours, however long, depending upon what you have eaten. Then after that, when you get hungry once again, that's when you should eat. Okay. Don't eat any snacks between meals. And then we should all avoid nervous stimulants, intoxicants, refined food, and foods that lead to lethargy. Now, if anybody is interested in a specific list of these things, I'll be happy to share that list. But in general, I should say that we should avoid these things. All right. Then, you see, we have studied what we should not do. We should also know what we should do. Right. So there was an exam, and for that exam, the mother told the child who was going to appear for the exam, now the exam is going to be in the next week or 2 weeks. So for these days in between, you should not go to your friends' homes to do time pass. You should not watch any TV. You should not watch any cricket. You should not play any cricket. Okay, you should. She gave a whole list of don'ts. Then this boy appeared for the exam, and still he did not pass. Then the mother asked him, I said, I had told you not to do this, not to do this, not to do this. What happened? Why did you fail? Did you not study? Says, mother, you had told me not to do this, not to do that, not to do that. I did not do any of that. So you did not tell me to study. So we should know what not to do, and we should also know what to do. So these are the do's. So it's like in yoga, it will be niyama, yama, which is not what not to do, and niyama means what to do. So these are the niyama. So we should follow 7 days a week routine of work, exercise, meal times, recreation, and rest. No animal other than Homo sapiens has a 5-day a week routine. Everybody has a 7-day a week routine, and it changes according to the time of the day and according to the season. That's how every organism conducts its life, or is naturally programmed to conduct its life. We have the freedom to conduct our life either according to the rules of nature or the way we please. And 99% of us will choose the second option. We will live our life as we please. To hell with natural laws. Anyway, you should eat only between sunrise and sunset. Ideally between say 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. If you do that, and if you fast from say 6 p.m. to 10 a.m. overnight, you will not get sick ever. All right, promise. You should try this for about 7 days and see how you feel. You will feel awesome. You should eat as much natural food as possible, preferably local and seasonal produce. So sitting in Mumbai, there is no need to eat apple that comes from Kashmir. Whatever is available in Mumbai, we should eat. I try to eat whatever is available here. So most of the time we get mangoes, not mangoes. I love mangoes, so therefore I said mangoes. During this season, we are getting a lot of mangoes. They are, of course, transported here, shipped here from the south, because in my area, mangoes don't grow. But I love mangoes, so during this season, I do eat mangoes. All right, but most of the time, there are apples here, pears here. We also get grapes here. So whatever is locally grown, we should eat. All right. Whatever grows in season or whatever is plentifully available in the market is what is good for us. So ideally, you should go to the market and find out what is the cheapest thing. Why is it cheapest? Because it is growing in plenty, right? So nature is providing that in plenty. So that is good for us. That is why nature is providing us. So go to the market. Whenever you go to the market, try to find out which is the cheapest vegetable or fruit. You buy that. 50% or more of your diet should be that. Then you can eat. It's not that you should not eat apples. You can eat apples, but don't make apples your main course. All right. Then if you have to cook your food, you cook simple food and you start from scratch. So in Mumbai, I would start from rice that is grown nearby. Start from that scratch. I mean, the raw rice. You soak it. I mean, you wash it up and then you boil it in an open pot. Once it is boiled, then if there is any water left over, you can drain that water and then eat the rice. Beans also the same way. Start from scratch, consume within an hour of cooking if you have to eat cooked food. And you should exercise regularly. You should do stretches. In my case, I do Surya Namaskar, sun salutation, which is a very powerful exercise for the entire body and especially for our spine. So our spine has to be strong and it has to be flexible. I'll show you some pictures. You should also take up a sport or a hobby of your choice because that's recreation. This is the transformation that took place after I followed these rules, as I told you, right? So in November 2017, I was 80 kilograms. I was like a sumo wrestler. So the picture Milind used for the flyer, which we shared with everybody, that was in December of 2017. So it was not quite when I was 68 kilograms as I became in February 2018, but I was about, I would say 72 or maybe 75 kgs in the beginning of December, that's when that picture was taken, which Milind shared with you, because I had shared it on my Facebook profile. So that's okay. But now I look like what this picture in February 2018 looks like. I have not changed much since then because my weight has been more or less the same. It has been in the 65 to 68 range. So blood pressure used to be on the higher side earlier. It came down. Now it is 100 by 70. Post meal blood sugar used to be above 150 at one time. Now it is less than 100. So it varies between 70 and 100 fasting and after meal, which is the ideal sugar level in the blood according to modern medical science. The cholesterol used to be about 200, it has gone to below 150. So these are all physical parameters. All right. The oxygen level is usually 100% at the fingertip because the lung function and the circulatory function, the blood is getting purified and it is getting circulated properly. So lung is working well and the heart is working well. So after that, I could never imagine that I could do my yogasanas as well as I used to do earlier. So when I learned as a teenager, I used to do yogasanas really well. I kept doing that until in my 40s. See, this picture was taken when I was around 42 or 43 years old. All right, I can do all of these asanas just as well as I used to do them at that time, or even when I was a teenager. I would say even better than that. Today, I am able to do yogasanas better than I was able to do when I was a teenager. I could never believe this was possible. But this came about because of this diet transformation. Okay. When we do yoga and we follow these rules of diet, we can be healthy lifelong and we can be fit lifelong. It also helps us be still. Our mind becomes still. We become serene. We become peaceful. We become blissful. Okay. So the mind is always in a state of balance. All right. After that, once we purify our mind, then we get glimpses of who we truly are. Once we get a glimpse of that, even for a moment, you will be completely transformed. I can promise you that. Okay. Because this realization leads us to understand that the sense of otherness we have, I consider myself to be apart from the rest. That sense of otherness disappears, which is actually what is yoga. Yoga means what? The union, right? Yoga literally means union. Union of what? Union of me as an individual with the totality. That is what is yoga. So there is an elimination of otherness. So if I become peaceful, then everybody around me becomes peaceful and the society becomes peaceful and the whole world becomes peaceful. See, this whole world, the way we see it is not the way it is. I'm going to tell you a bit about that in the next few slides. But a reflection of our own mind. See, unless the world is reflected in our mind, we don't really experience the world at all. So I'm speaking to you from Pennsylvania, but unless you are hearing it, you will not know that I'm speaking to you from Pennsylvania, isn't it? So my voice has to go through the satellite, through your device, and then through your ear, into your brain, into your mind. Only then that experience will tell you that I'm speaking to you. So even though I'm speaking to you from Pennsylvania, you are listening to me within you. The entire world seems to be happening outside, but unless it is reflected in our mind, we do not experience it. So now you tell me whether the experience in our mind is real or the world outside is real. Think. So when we do yoga, most of the people here misunderstand yoga is transforming our body or twisting our body into impossible shapes. That is what most people understand yoga to be. Yoga is not that at all. Yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga consists of 8 different things: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Yama means what not to do. Niyama means what to do. Asana means to sit comfortably. Asana does not mean the picture you are seeing on that is an asana, all right? But that is basically just for physical fitness and flexibility. Actual asana is to sit still in one position happily. In the entire 195 or so verses or sukta of Yoga Sutra, all of these sutras, only 2 are dedicated to asana by Patanjali Muni. He says, Sthira Sukham Asanam. That's what he says about asana. So in whatever asana your sukha is sthira, means your happiness is steady, that is asana. All right. How long can I be happy in the pose you are seeing here on the screen? Only for half a minute, isn't it? So for half a minute for exercise, for flexibility, this is okay. I do this every day. I did this even this morning. All right. So that is asana. Once that happens, then pranayama, or the balancing of the pranas in our body, will happen. It's not just balancing the breath, by the way, or controlling the breath. Controlling the breath will lead to a balancing of the prana, or the life energy within us. Then pratyahara. Pratyahara means anti-ahara. Prati ahara. Prati means anti, and ahara means whatever we consume. So not consuming too much of material stuff, okay, and not just food or anything else, but even the thoughts we entertain in our mind. So all of those things we have to control. Then dharana is a direction we take. All right. Then dhyana is meditation. Meditation is not something we do early morning. It's not we do meditation for half an hour and then for the rest of the day it is frustration. It's not like that. Meditation means to live in meditation, or to live meditatively, including this conversation I'm doing with you or the speech I'm giving you is being done meditatively. It's meditation as far as I'm concerned. Okay. In this stage, if you remain all the time and follow these steps, then you will remain in samadhi. Samadhi means you will be in balance all the time. All right. So these are the basic yogasana rules. Before you start a yoga practice, you should exercise on empty stomach, breathe through your nose, never through your mouth, avoid breathing during movement, keep movement slow and do not overstretch, do not drink, eat or shower immediately after asanas, keep regular routine of sleep, work, recreation, we have already seen this, eat only when hungry, we've seen this, do not eat reheated, processed or microwave food. That is not good for us. Do not eat stale food. It is more work for our body for very little nutrition. So not worth it. Then we should fast overnight. We've already seen that. Then eat to live and not live to eat. All right. This is my daily Surya Namaskar routine. I don't know how many of you do Surya Namaskar, but this is the best exercise for us because this is not dependent upon any equipment. This is not dependent upon any place or location. If you're in the garden, you can do it in the garden. If you're in the home, you can do it in the home. If you're traveling, you can do it in your hotel room. What is wrong? So these are 10 steps. The Namaskarasana, then you bend backwards. Then this is Hastapadasana, you bend forwards. Then this is, wherever you're standing, you take one leg back. And then this is the plank, Setu Bandhasan. Then after that, you go down, touch your 8 angas, or it is called Sashtanga Namaskar. Then after that, this is Bhujangasana or the snake. Then you go into the dog pose or Shvanasana. Then you repeat this one pose that you had repeated here. You come up with one leg. Then you again do Hastapadasana and do Namaskarasana. All right. So this is the Surya Namaskar routine I do every day. Thereafter, after doing all this, okay, so we've studied how to do the transformation of the body or detoxification of the body. Then we studied how to do the mind purification through yoga. Now we come to the spiritual aspect of life, because we live our life at 3 levels: the Adi Bhautik level, the material level, the Adi Daivik level or the mental level or the experience level, and the Adhyatmik or the experiencer level. All right. So when all 3 things are in balance, that is when we get fulfilled. That is when we are always blissful. So for that, if we study the Gita, because Gita happens to be the essence of all the Vedas, okay, all the Vedas, their wisdom is condensed or is given in the Upanishads, and these Upanishads are towards the end of the Vedas. So that is why they are also called Vedanta. Vedanta means Upanishad. Upanishad means essentially sitting at the feet of the teacher and learning knowledge. That is what Upanishad means. All right. So all the wisdom of the Upanishads has been condensed in the Bhagavad Gita. So if we want to learn about who we are, then we don't have to read all the Vedas. We don't have to read all the Upanishads. We should only read the Gita. And even in the Gita, the 15th chapter of the Gita happens to be the essence of the Gita. All right. What Gita can do for us? It will lead us to material prosperity. Okay, in the material level will be prosperous. Of course, after telling the Gita to Arjuna, Arjuna became the king of Hastinapura, isn't it? So materially he was prosperous. We are also happy. The experience we have after we achieve whatever we are, working towards, that is Adhidaivik. And also Adhidaivik means the material forces or the forces in the world, they come together to help us. All right. And the third thing is Adhyatmic, which is inner transformation. So after we study this, we transform from within, and we get a glimpse of who we are. And then we try to always remain in that awareness. That is called self-realization. So that is why we need to study Gita. The philosophy of Gita, just in 3 different bullet points, is: number 1, body identification is erroneous. Number 2, our essential nature is imperishable, eternal, unchanging, pure consciousness. That you are, thou art that. Tat tvamasi. Self-realization is possible through Swadharma, by following our Swadharma or our duty, which is changing, throughout our life. So when we are children, we have to study. When we grow older, then we have to, maintain our family or do our job. Then after our job is over, then we contemplate. And then fourthly, we renounce everything. So this is Brahmacharya ashram, Grihastha Vanaprastha ashram, Sannyasa ashram. So all of these things keep changing throughout the life. But the one goal, Swadharma, means understanding who I am. That is the Swadharma. So whatever I study, if it is leading me to understand who I am or realize who I am, that is Swadharma. And if anything I study is taking me away from myself, that is not Swadharma. So if these 3 things we can understand from the Gita, that will be great. There are 4 different ways in which we can understand this or realize this. The way the Gita describes is: number 1, karma, which is duty or service. And number 2 is yoga, which is discipline or focus. Number 3 is bhakti, which is devotion or love. And number 4 is jnana or knowledge. Okay, so all these 4 things are the paths that one can take towards self-realization. So if we are identified with the body, identified with the material world, we should do karma yoga, because we will always want to do something. So we should do our duty with a sense of dedication, with a sense of devotion, and with a sense of service, which is exactly what Rotary Club is telling all of us, is it not? We should do volunteer service, which is in addition to whatever we are doing to earn our bread and pay our bills. We should do that always. Nothing can succeed unless we are focused or disciplined. So that discipline and focus comes through the practice of yoga. Then when we realize this, when we start realizing that we are neither this body, we are not this body for sure, then we start realizing that we are apart from the body. So we start thinking we are the soul or the individual jiva. Okay, so that individual jiva starts realizing that whatever I'm doing in the world, it's not happening by itself. It's happening because a lot of different things are coming together. So that unseen power that is helping me conduct my life, I start thinking of that as a devata or an ishta devata. So then some of us may have devotion or dedication towards Rama. We had a big celebration about Rama Mandir in Ayodhya a couple days ago. Some of us may be devotees of Krishna. Some of us may be devotees of some other deity, which is all okay. All of that basically helps us make our mind single pointed. Then that single pointed mind becomes prepared or ready for the pursuit of knowledge. All right. Unless we are ready for the pursuit of knowledge, we will not know anything. Even if somebody teaches us something, we will not understand anything because we are not ready to understand it. That is the problem. But once we do this in this manner, then we become ready for attaining knowledge, and that is the path of jnana. So that jnana portion is completely distilled and described in the 15th chapter, which is the summary of Vedic wisdom. So if you don't study the Vedas, if you don't study the Upanishads, if you don't study any Puranas, you don't study anything. If you want to study just one thing, focus on this. You see, all my life I have been an executive, and how our own habits will ruin us or change our perception. So as an executive, I was used to writing and reading executive summaries. Okay, and a lot of times I would just read the executive summary and not need to read the entire report, because the entire report is probably not worth reading, or I have understood the crux of the report in that executive summary because it was so well written. So I said, okay, I don't have really time to read all the Vedas and Upanishads. I don't even know Sanskrit. So why should I go and spend my time and energy in doing that? Why don't I look at this executive summary? So I started studying this. In that chapter, we have a clear understanding of what this world is, who am I, who I think is God or the controller or the Ishvara, or what is the practice to understand all this. So all four things are very clearly established and explained in the 15th chapter. Okay, once we learn those things, then we realize that my essential nature is omnipresent. I am everywhere. Okay, sarvasya cha aham, सर्वस्य चाहम हृदय सन्निविष्टो मत्तस्मृतिर ज्ञानम अपोहनम च वेदैश्च सर्वैर अहमेव वेद्यो वेदांतकृत वेद विदेव चाहम. That is the 15th verse, which is the crux of Vedic knowledge. If we contemplate even on that one verse, even by that our life can be completely transformed. At the end of which the Lord says to Arjuna, iti guhyatamam shastram, which is the subtlest or the most secret knowledge. Guhyatamam. Guhya knowledge means secret knowledge. Guhyatar knowledge means more secret. And Guhyatama means most secret knowledge. That he has imparted through this chapter to Arjuna, which is all of us. Gita was specifically told to Arjuna, but we all were able to read it because of the Doordarshan drishti of Sanjaya, and this entire thing was written by Veda Vyasa for all of us. So if we can study this, if we can learn this, then our life can be fulfilled. All right. So by learning all this, then how does it get translated into actual work? So I ended up starting this startup along with Pooja Keswani, who happens to be here, and we have named it Sattva, your bowl of good health. All right. So you're welcome to find out what we are doing on sattva.life and find out more from the number we have given here. But see, in conclusion, my story has been, I have experimented with natural diet for the body purification, which resulted in phenomenal health and well-being. Yoga for mind purification. I've been doing yogasanas for the last 40 plus years, but I never really understood what yoga was until more recently. And then through the study of Gita, I understood what it means to be self-realized. I should not say I'm self-realized. Anybody who says I'm self-realized is simply fooling himself. All right. Self-realization is not something that can be explained adequately. All right. All I have done so far is to explain to you the experience. Hopefully you will be able to understand based on your experience. All right. So the only goal of life and the only mantra, the only takeaway from this entire experience is be happy. Mauj mein raho. Great. So thank you, Milind, for giving me this opportunity. I'm delighted to take questions if there are any questions. Please go ahead.
Excellent speech, Vikram. So I think I attended in IIT Bombay,
Yes.
and again I could see some new insights for attending second time, and it's excellent, and it will help me lifelong. So thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
And now I request all the members. This is now question answer session. So if you have any question, just raise your hand and ask. So Parvez, you have some question. Please unmute yourself.
I know the question. I was just saying, please raise the hand.
Okay. So Varsha has some question. Varsha?
Yeah. How important are microgreen in the natural diet? Because nowadays they are advertising microgreen as a full meal or whatever essential meal or essential part of your meal. So how important is that?
Okay, so the question is, how important are microgreens in our diet?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So whatever grows locally, whatever grows in the season, if we eat that with awareness and with reverence, okay, that is all good for us. Don't go for any fancy stuff that somebody is marketing. Okay. So if that food cannot be grown locally, it has to be imported, and you
Yeah.
eat it every day, all 12 months in a year, that will not be good for you, by the way. Okay. So you eat whatever is locally available. In Bharat, we always have bananas 12 months in a year. Bananas are good for us. Okay. In the season, we will have pomegranate. Pomegranate is very good for us. We will have right now, of course, the mango season is over. For us, mango season is still going on because we get mangoes from the south. I think they come from Mexico. So I eat those regularly. I love mangoes. So mangoes are great for us. They have a lot of B12. They have a lot of vitamin C. So these are micronutrients that we get from regular food. You don't have to unnecessarily go for something fancy. So microgreens, if they are easily available or you can grow them in your own gallery, by all means eat them.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, microgreens, I would even consider the dhania or the kothmir,
Methi, Kothmir.
kothmir, coriander. These are microgreens. You eat them. They are good. I love raw methi. If you eat the raw methi really tender, it's not very bitter.
Okay. Because I've started lately alfalfa and wheat,
is
which
also
is
good.
locally available. So
No
wheat is
problem.
locally available. Yeah. So I've
So
started growing.
if we can grow the food in our gallery, whatever microgreens you can grow in your gallery, by all means eat that. No problem.
Okay. Thank
You
you.
know, the other day we did some sprouts and then some mung beans did not sprout very well. So my wife simply threw them away in the garden. In the garden, they sprouted. I had an entire crop of mung little sprouts. So I had to clean that up. And I said, we need to either soak it or maybe you just cook it and eat for, that small portion. But normally I do is I soak my nuts overnight and I eat along with the fruit. So nuts will give me the protein
Mhm.
as well as the fat.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would like to ask one question.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Do you differentiate between vegan and like they say non-dairy? I mean, what is your take on vegan? Should a
Right.
person become totally vegan or partial vegan is good?
Okay, the answer to that question is you should not become anybody. You should do what nature tells you. I will tell you that milk is necessary for every mammal of its mother until a certain age. Thereafter, milk is not necessary. Milk of another mammal is not necessary. So milk, if somebody is telling you that milk is essential, it is not. Okay, so if you are a vegan, if you do not eat any dairy products, you will not die. It will be good for you.
That's
in
true.
fact. All right, in my case, dairy does not suit me. So I do not eat any dairy products. All right, but that is personal choice. If somebody is eating dairy, I cannot condemn them by saying that, hey, I am a vegan and you are not. That's not the way one has to be. Okay, that will make my ego stronger. It will make me holier than thou. That holier than thou attitude has to be completely eliminated from our consciousness. Okay, if I'm practicing yoga, if I'm practicing Vedanta, and if I'm agitated, and if I have a sense of otherness, and if I'm condemning somebody, all of my learning is completely zero.
Zero.
So I am a vegan and you are not a vegan, so you will go to hell. No. If I'm thinking like this, I'm already in hell by considering you as somebody apart from me and condemning you. All right. So veganism, vegetarianism, all of these isms have to be discarded completely. All of these isms will increase and strengthen my sense of otherness. This strength of otherness is the root cause of all misery. Okay, so don't become a vegan or a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian or educated or, in Marathi they say shahana or deed shahana. Don't become anybody. This whole spiritual
The
practice
word
is
become is
not
not to
becoming, but
become.
exactly, the whole spiritual practice is not becoming anybody at all, unbecoming
Yeah.
whatever we have become. That is the spiritual practice. The first spiritual practice, in fact, I should tell you this, because I've told you the rules of diet, right? In the same manner, the rules of spiritual practice are only 5. Remember only these. Number 1 rule, nirmana moha. This comes in the 5th verse of the 15th chapter. Nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimukta sukha dukkha samnyai gacchantya mudha padamau vyayam tat. That is the practice. So nirmana moha jitasanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimukta. Only 5 things. Nirmana moha means not having any delusion of any measurement. मान का मोह नहीं होना चाहिए. मान मीन्स हमने अपने आप को कुछ मान लिया है. I have measured myself in time, space and object in my own mind. मैंने अपने आप को जो माना होगा वो माना होगा, लेकिन दूसरों ने भी तो मानना चाहिए. नहीं तो मेरे अपने बारे में मैंने जो माना है उसको उसका क्या अर्थ है? कुछ भी नहीं है. I may think of myself as, you know, I'm the greatest, but everybody else thinks that he is a fool. Then, so this mana moha has to be given up. Number 1. Jita sanga dosha, whatever will bind me. Sanga dosh means the error of binding, the error of bondage. That has to be given up. Then thirdly, adhyatma nitya, so contemplation of who I am. Adhyatma nitya, always contemplate on who I am. I should be always aware of who I am. So right now I am a speaker, so I am a speaker. All right, so what is my duty? I should tell you honestly what my experience is. It's my duty. And you are a listener. So your duty is to listen. Whether you are doing that or not, I don't know. I'm speaking, at least I'm doing my duty. See, in democracy, there is a whole debate about rights and responsibilities, right? In democracy, I should not be concerned about my rights. I should be concerned only about my responsibility. So when I am fulfilling my responsibility, then I am protecting your right. Okay, so that's how rights and responsibilities have to be understood. If I am fulfilling my responsibility, I am protecting your right. In the same manner, when you fulfill your responsibility, then my right is protected. But if I'm fighting for my right, then I'm neither fulfilling my responsibility nor letting you fulfill your responsibility. हमारी मांगे पूरी करो, भारत बंद, मुंबई बंद, ये बंद, वो बंद. Is there any need for that? You fulfill your own responsibility. I should fulfill my own responsibility, and then your right will be protected automatically. So, then we talked about Adhyatma Nitya, right? And then Vinivritta Kamaha. Vinivritta Kamaha means retiring or going beyond all desires or kamanas. How will that happen? Desire happens only because of our sense of otherness. If I don't have something, then I want it because I have considered that to be other than me. So that's why I have desire. So we have to go beyond that. And then Dvandvair Vimukta. So going beyond the Dvandvas or the sense of duality. So these are all subtle topics. I'm happy to speak more about this at a later date. Today we wanted to only give you a flavor of how diet purification can lead to self-transformation. So hopefully I was able to convey that message, and I'm happy to come back if there is an interest. Thank you.
Milind, I want to ask.
Okay,
yes, please.
Lata, go ahead.
Doctor, if you are combining physical exercise like walking and then asana, which should be done first? Whether first have a 1 hour walk and come back and then do asana, like your Surya Namaskar, or first do the Surya Namaskar and then go for a walk? What is the better combination?
That is a great question. I have done it both ways, and it hasn't really bothered me as much, because in the winter, what happens is, here in America, the sunrise is much later. So I will do the yogasanas first, and then I will go for a walk. Okay. But in Mumbai, for example, it may be easier to do the walk first and do the yogasanas later, because early in the morning, say 5 o'clock, the walk will be very pleasant. And then 6 o'clock, once you come home, then you do the yogasanas. Either way will work. All right. So it depends upon your experience, how you feel. You try both ways and see what works for you, and then you will know for yourself.
Okay, Jaipal, you have a question. Yes.
Yeah.
Unmute, Jaipal, unmute yourself.
Unmute.
Yeah,
your-
Unmuted.
I have one
Yeah,
more
yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
हाँ हाँ
Yes.
बताइए.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Doctor, to me, it's not flattering at all. It is coming from my heart. You seem to be an enlightened person, a very balanced, person, a balanced life you are leading. And I'm really quite impressed actually
Yes,
with
we
you.
all are impressed.
That's what number one. As one to small questions. This is when you soak these almonds and nuts in the morning. Do you peel off the almond? Do you peel off, or you just
Skin.
take it with the
Okay,
cover?
that is a good question. I have done it either way and it doesn't bother me. Okay, what I do is I will throw away the water. I'll tell you what happens when you soak the nuts. Every nut or every seed has a covering. That covering is given by nature for protecting the seed. All right. So typically what happens is if an animal swallows a seed or eats a fruit and the seed goes through the system as it is, the seed does not get digested unless it is processed in some manner, because the seed coating or that cover of the seed will protect the seed from getting wasted or whatever, that covering will get biodegraded or it will get transformed and the seed will start sprouting only when the conditions are right. Okay. So do you know this people tree, Ficus religiosa? People tree, Ashwatha tree, that is described in the 15th chapter, Urdhvamulam Adhashakam Ashwatham Prahuravyayam. This Ashwatha tree is, you cannot really plant its seed and expect it to grow or germinate. It doesn't do that. You know why? That seed has to be eaten by a crow, and that crow will go and excrete the seed somewhere. Even on the top of the mountain, you will see sometimes that there is a people tree. How it got there? Who has planted it there? The people tree does not even germinate. That seed will not germinate unless that seed has passed through the crow's alimentary canal. Only then the covering of that seed undergoes some transformation that makes it germinate when it goes into the ground. All right. So the seed cover protects the seed in this manner until the seed finds conditions necessary and appropriate for its germination. Okay. So if we eat the seed as it is very difficult for us to digest because that cover protects it. And that cover also has some toxins. Those toxins are released in the water when you soak it. So in the morning, you should throw away that water. If you actually eat the seed cover, it will not bother you. It will go through your system like roughage. So it will be dietary fiber.
Sometimes it's good, no? That way.
If you see, you eat it, I eat it with the cover, it doesn't bother me. If you peel away the cover, that is also okay. Doesn't matter because the nutritional value is in the seed itself. All right. So if you soak your almonds, go ahead, please.
Sorry, second and the last question is this raw food, always the problem is of, the pesticides, and then waxing and, so probably in US we are more lucky, they take care and there are more controls. But I don't know, in our country. So that's always an apprehension. There's always a concern.
Great. So this question gets asked every single lecture.
Right.
I have not given a lecture and not had this question. Every time somebody will ask, Dr. Vikram, you live in the United States. What do you know about the conditions in India?
Yeah.
You have pure food over there. So I'll tell you what happens there. All right. Not to be afraid of it. See, when we eat food, even if it is the purest food, the most organic food and this and that, our world today has become contaminated beyond our imagination. All right. So even if it is organic food, washed properly, the water with which you are washing, the Bombay Municipal Corporation water you are getting in your tap, is that pure? We don't think so. There is some impurity there also. The impurity may be very small. I'm not saying that impurity is very high. So in the same manner, even on the food, the pesticide residue may be rather small. Our body is intelligent enough and designed well enough by nature to be able to get rid of pesticide. That is why we have the liver and kidney in our body, is it not? See, what happens is we eat so much of food and we overload our body with food and we do not fast long enough. So all these toxins will get built up in our body. All right. So if we observe an overnight fast of 14 to 16 hours every day, then after the food is digested, that is when the detoxification of the body takes place. All right. Unfortunately, what we do, we keep putting food into the body all the time. So the body is constantly fighting the food itself, constantly trying to digest it and trying to make sure that it is processed. If we give our body some rest during the hours of 12 plus, so if I've eaten a meal, then I have fasted for 12 hours overnight. So if I finish my dinner by 6 o'clock, after 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning, until I eat my breakfast or my lunch or whatever, during that time, these pesticides are thrown away by the body. If you eat or drink your bed tea at 6 o'clock in the morning, forget about detoxification. Then you will keep building up these pesticides all the time. So this intermittent fasting is so crucial. I have experimented with this. I've even done 1 meal a day program for 3 months, just 1 meal a day. I felt so good during that time. But then my sense of ego started taking over. I'm eating only 1 meal a day, holier than thou. Forget about it. When I'm hungry, I will eat. So if I'm hungry, I eat. If I'm not hungry, I will not eat. That's simple. Why unnecessarily, I'm a this, I'm a that. I eat only 1 meal. All bakwas.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And secondly, I should tell you the comment about this enlightenment. This enlightenment happens because there is one bulb on this side and another bulb on this side that is shining on my face. That's why. Okay. don't take it too far away.
It is, I think, Sat Chit Anand. You are in Anand all the time, I think.
Anand all the time. That is true. See, what was the last line in our presentation?
Sat Chit Anand. You are always in that.
I know. I'll tell you where is Sat Chit Anand. The last sentence in our concluding remarks was what? Be happy. Right? See, the material world is basically Sat. It exists. Sat means existence. Chit means knowledge. So this entire material world of stones and soil and all that, that is all Sat. That is all existence. Okay. In that existence, there is a magical expression of life. That is plants and the vegetable kingdom or the greenery around us. Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the first expression of life. So in the plant kingdom, we will see existence and life. Then you come to the animal kingdom, you will see existence, life, and knowledge. Right? So the animals know what food to eat, where to go find a mate, where to go lay eggs, and all those things animals know. But when it comes to human beings are the only life forms capable of expressing Ananda. So you will have Sat, then you will have life, then you will have Chit, and then you will have Ananda. So if we do not realize this when we are in this human form, we will have wasted a golden opportunity. Most of us, or many of us, you will have observed that we have a human body, but we are eating like pigs. So therefore, what will nature say? Nature will say, it is my mistake that I have given you the wrong body. Next time I will correct my mistake. I will make you a pig. So therefore, tathastu. Then at least you will not be ashamed of eating like a pig. I'll tell you a very interesting story about this pig business. Okay. So once God became very happy and he came down to the earth, and there was a devotee he was praying him and all that. So God was very happy and he came down. And he told the devotee, I have come to get you. I'm going to take you to Vaikuntha with me. All right. So get ready, pack up your bags and we'll go. He says, no. I am a Samaj Sevak. I want to take everybody with me. I cannot go there alone, right? I'm not selfish. I want to take everybody. God said, you forget about everybody else. I'm taking you. So why don't you come? But no. I want to take all these people with me. He says, okay, try. Whoever comes with me on our plane, there is unlimited seats and I will take everybody with me to heaven. So this fellow goes to a sannyasi in an ashram. And he says, Maharaj, God has come here along with his Pushpak Viman or whatever, and we all have to go to heaven. So why don't we go? Shall we go? He says, oh, what are you telling me? I have just now started building a temple here and ordered a marble statue of Lord Dattatreya from Jaipur. it is going to be installed in this ashram. Until then, I cannot go. I will go only after that. All right. So God is looking at this whole drama and he is smiling in his mind. Then he says, okay, it's okay. Forget about him. Find somebody else. So he goes to a vanaprastha, who's a retired person, just like us. Not like me. I'm still active. I have this startup in Pune. So Pooja is watching me here and she should not get disillusioned that I'm thinking of myself as retired. I'm not. So he goes to a vanaprastha and he says, Maharaj, let's go. Our Pushpak Viman has come. Plenty of seats are there. Even we can sit one seat apart with social distancing. Don't worry. Plenty of room. We have a 380. Let's go. He says, no. Just now my grandson has born. Is born. This is a little grandson. I'm playing with him. I'm enjoying with him. When his grandson becomes married, then I will go. Achha. So then vanaprastha is out. So then our bhakta says, okay, I'll go to a gruhastha. So gruhastha ke paas jata hai. Then he says, let's go. So gruhastha says, oh, I have just got married. I have my whole life to live. How can I go? I will not go. Then the bhakta says, okay, I'll go to a brahmachari. Let me go and try to find out if he will go. So he goes and asks some brahmachari in the same ashram of the sannyasi. He says, hey chap, let's go. He says, no. I'm just now starting the study of Vedas. I have to study the Vedas, then the Upanishads, then the Gita, and then my entire life. I'm not going to go just now. So then our bhakta says, totally disappointed with human beings. He says, okay, let me go find out a pig. Varaha. So he goes to a pig, Suwar, uske paas jata hai. And he says, Maharaj, let's go. So the pig says, let me ask my Suwarani, Mrs. Pig, whether I should go or not. So Mrs. Pig says, अरे वहां पर हमारे टाइप का खाना मिलता है कि उनसे पूछो फिर जाएंगे. So it doesn't matter even if God appears in our life to take us, deliver us. Are we ready? That we have to understand. So we say Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum, right? This Krishna appeared in the life of Duryodhana and Dushasana also. वो तो नहीं सुधरे. So ऐसा होता है, even if the teacher appears in our life, if we are not ready, we cannot learn anything from him. Even Arjuna was 86 years old before the Gita was told to him. Until then, he was thinking of Krishna as mera cousin hai. Because Krishna's father Vasudeva and Arjuna's mother Kunti, they were brother and sister. So they grew up as cousins. So even until the end of his life, Arjuna did not really want to understand anything from Krishna, the Jagat Guru. Although he happened to be in his life, closest friend, did not have the desire. So in this learning process, the Shishya or the student is much more important than the teacher. So one should always remain a student throughout life. Never become a teacher. If you become a teacher, you will be only frustrated.
So one question on that.
Yes. Bataiye.
May I ask one question on that? You
Sure,
said
please.
toxins are not thrown out if you have tea in the morning. But if you have something like a dalchini ka pani in the morning, is that okay? Instead of
Okay.
having tea?
No, but why do you want to have dalchini ka pani? Who has
Because
told you
it
that you must
controls your
have?
sugar, controlling of sugar. That's what we
You
hear.
should, it's okay, but you should drink any water or you should drink any liquid only if you're thirsty. Otherwise,
Beg
there
your
is no
pardon?
reason for you to drink.
Drink
should-
only when you are thirsty.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Dr. Vikram, it was fascinating, the
Thank you.
connection you made from food growing, absorbing the elements, to diet options, to spiritual transcendence. The journey was very inspiring, very convincing.
Thank you.
And I am a vegetarian.
Great.
But I want to make a plea for the other. The other.
Right. Sure.
The world's non-vegetarians also have proved themselves to be very strong in body, champions of the world of sports. They have been philosophers, poets with great insight, self-transcendence. What would be your argument against non-vegetarian? Would it be purely ethical, or is there a biological reason as well? That's my question.
Okay. First of all, I have no argument. All right. In Advaita,
Others.
there is no sense of other. All right. So there is no sense of argument. I don't want to argue against or for anybody. All right. So I already told you that even though I am a vegan, I'm not saying that you should all become vegan. No, you should do what pleases you or suits you. I'm not saying that if you're a non-vegetarian, you will not be self-realized. In our entire history, there are many people who ate meat and all that. Even Swami Vivekananda used to eat meat. Who can dispute that Swami Vivekananda was self-realized or not? There is no dispute at all. All right. And it is also known that he used to eat non-vegetarian. That does not mean that we should all become non-vegetarians. He in fact used to say that there should be research on how plant-based diet can be just as sustaining and just as strengthening as animal-based diet. It's okay. So I will tell you the scientific reason now. What happens? So from the environmental point of view, I will tell you, forget about the ethics. Because even if I'm a vegan, I'm consuming so many things that that involve exploitation. So even if the fabric I'm wearing is made by somebody in some factory somewhere and they are employing some child labor or so, what control do I have? Okay, I don't have any control over exploitation. That exploitation or himsa, as our culture would call it, that can be minimized only if we consume only what is truly necessary and not indulge. So simple living in high thinking is what will lead to minimization of himsa. It will not be eliminated completely. All right. So the scientific reason for not consuming animal products, environmental reason, is just say protein. So if you look at 1 kilogram of protein that comes from the animal versus 1 kilogram of protein that comes from the plant sources, the amount of water, energy, and the land area that is required for creating that 1 kilogram of protein, there is no comparison at all. Okay. So we are already 7.5 billion on this planet. Our footprint has become like that Vamana Avatara. It has become so big, or that Bali, whoever that story is, that 1 foot here, 1 foot on the earth, 1 foot in the Swarga, and 1 foot on the Patala. That is how we have become, like demons. All right. That is why we are seeing all these environmental challenges we have. See, my dream as an environmental engineer is that my profession has to become redundant. I should retire completely because the environment is so good, there is nothing for me to do anymore. That would be my dream, right? That is the ideal of any profession, every profession. That profession becomes totally unnecessary because everybody is now completely satisfied and peaceful and happy and healthy. So you don't need to have any doctors in the society. But is that going to happen? Probably not, because not everybody is looking at their life and looking at how they can live and how they should live and all that. These things nobody bothers about. So therefore, from the environmental point of view, eating animal protein or eating animal products is absolutely no. At one time, it might have been okay when there were plenty of animals, and if I killed any number of animals, it would not affect the balance. But now, if I eat any animal protein, it's not a good idea environmentally. All right. Secondly, the animal is sentient. Okay. Mostly we are eating either birds or mammals, isn't it? We are eating a chicken or we are eating mutton in India, especially. So I will tell our meat-loving friends, any of them, all of them, if you want to eat meat, that is fine. Go ahead, do that. Try to go kill your own animal and then cook it yourself and then eat. You don't have to go even that far. I will say those people who eat meat right now, even if they go and see the animal being slaughtered, 99% will give it up. Okay? We cannot really see killing like that. Most of us eat non-vegetarian food because the animal is not killed in front of our eyes. That is the problem. I'm not going to do any ethical, moral issues here at all. Just emotional issues. I'm sure anybody who's eating meat right now, even if they see the animal being killed that they're going to eat, they will quit eating. Absolutely. And if they see the animal getting killed in the kind of environment it is getting killed, just see the slaughterhouse. If you visit the slaughter, don't actually see the animal getting killed. Just visit the slaughterhouse. Don't even do that. Even if you are eating some vegetarian food, go and see the kitchen in the Vaishnav Dhaba. If you see the kitchen in the Vaishnav Dhaba, you will stop eating outside. You will eat only in your own kitchen, you will cook your food in your own kitchen because you know the quality of the kitchen in your house, right? So I'm not going to recommend anything to anybody here. All right. All these recommendations have to be learned, they have to be experimented with, and they have to be experienced. I'm here to transform myself, not you. I'm not under any delusion. Thank you. Was it too strong? I'm sorry, if I did not mean to offend you.
Mr. Marathe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Namaskar. It was a very nice experience hearing you on this very interesting topic.
Thank you very much.
In fact, my wife would like to say one or two words because she is in this particular technology. She's food technology.
Thank you.
She heard your full lecture and very happy. So she would like to just talk to you.
Namaskar, Vaini.
नमस्कार नमस्कार. खूप
बोला.
छान होतं. माझ्या जिव्हाळ्याचा विषय होता त्याच्यामुळे मला ते फारच भावलं.
Thank you.
ऍक्च्युली मी सगळं ऐकलं आणि ह्यांचं
माझे क्लासेस होते त्यामुळे I couldn't hear you.
No problem. I'm delighted both of you came, and I'm delighted you could hear it. I'm delighted you enjoyed it. I'll be happy to talk to you separately also. If you have any specific question that will be of interest to all of us, then please ask and then I'll answer.
Yeah, and then we'll talk separately.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that it was very nice lecture and we should continue this type of lectures. And although I am not Rotarian, but if I can get opportunity to hear such lectures, I will be most happy.
I will be giving a lecture on this topic on Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock India time. And I'll be happy to share the link with Dr. Milind, who can share it with all of you. I will send it to you, Mr. Marathe, separately.
Yes, sure.
Will you share your recording also with us?
Absolutely. This recording will become available on my YouTube channel eventually in the next maybe an hour or so. By all means, you can listen to it. There are many other lectures also on that channel. So you can go through the entire journey. No problem.
Do you take Gita classes also?
I study the Gita. If somebody wants to study the Gita with me, I'm happy to share my experience with them. No problem.
Because we would, if somebody else explains the Gita, it's much easier than to read the Gita. That's
Absolutely.
what is my
Absolutely.
That is
I'm
my
also
experience.
lazy. I do not read any books.
I tried to read the Gita so many times, but I couldn't. But when some Swamiji comes and they gives the discourse of 14 days, 14 chapters, I go and listen.
Wonderful.
So that is much easier and then absorbing it rather than reading it yourself.
Understand.
So
So
if
what
you
I
are
would
doing
suggest
it-
now, whatever you have learned so far, either from me or from any Swamiji, you try to implement some of those things in your life. So I would say for the next 1 week, just implement one rule in your life. Only 1 week. You don't have to get up early. You don't have to do yoga. You don't have to go for a walk. You don't have to do any exercise. You don't have
Always,
to be
as
nice
it is,
to
I'm
anybody.
doing it.
Just one. Do not eat unless you are hungry for 1 week.
I'm
Then
doing
you shall see.
intermittent fasting as it is. That's why I asked you that question of the water.
Fantastic.
So I'm doing intermittent. I go for an early morning walk. I get up at 4:30 every day. So my
Fantastic.
walk is there. That's why the question of asana and walk was there.
So there is room for only one last question.
All right.
Lalit wants
Thank you.
to ask one question. Lalit, go ahead.
Dr. Vikram,
Yes.
this was a very, very insightful journey into diet as well as Gita. Actually, I would like to, indulge myself into learning more about Gita now. As far as your company is concerned, I was connected with this back in 2008 when Charles, I don't know whether Charles Brumlick, he was in
Yes,
India.
I know Charles Bromlake. Yes.
He was in India for a nanotechnology session in Bangalore.
Correct.
That's when I had a team. We were, dabbling with some nanotechnology then. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. Only one question comes to me. It's more like a joke now. You said, you should eat fruits and vegetables which are grown or in the season. Then what about the old adage? An apple a day keeps away.
Okay, so that rule was for people who used to grow apples and sell them. That's why they marketed it, popularized it.
Okay.
There is no reason for you to believe anybody's BS. Okay, marketing BS, especially marketing people, there is a joke in our industry, is it not? The marketing person gives so much BS to everybody that ultimately he thinks that the BS is the truth. That is not the truth.
Okay,
You should
friends,
find out
so
your own truth.
So Vikram,
Thank
this
you,
session
Dr.
is
Vikram.
Thank you, sir.
How do we learn Gita with you? How and when?
Okay, so I will let you know. I will share with you the links of the Gita
Please do
lectures I
that.
have given. And then if I'm giving any more lectures on the Gita, by all means, you're welcome to join.
The time difference should not bother us.
Yeah, that's fine. Usually I do my talks early in the morning, which is evening in India. Or otherwise I'll do late at night, which will be early morning in India.
Early morning. Fine, that's great. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
You're most
Thanks for
welcome.
your kind indulgence in all our questions.
You're most
So
welcome. It's been a
wonderfully
pleasure.
explained everything. Thank you so
So,
much. And we wish
it
to
was
have you again
excellent.
soon.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent speech, Vikram, and even more was the question answer session, which went so nicely, and you answered in such a comfortable manner that it was also a learning in itself. So now, friends, as you know, this speaker meeting we are having joint.
Milind, you are muted. So can you unmute yourself?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry. If you can repeat the last 10 seconds would be great.
Yeah, so this speaker meeting is organized by two Rotary clubs. One of course is ours, that is Rotary Club of Mumbai Green City,
Yes.
and the other club is Inner Wheel Club of Mumbai Andheri East.
Okay.
This is especially the club of ladies actually. So their president Daljit Kaur Bindra is here. So I'm requesting her to speak few words. So Daljit ji, please. I will unmute you. Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Rotary President Dr. Milind Kulkarni, Secretarian Rotarian Mrs. Daksha Das, Speaker Dr. Vikram, members of Rotary Green City, members, my club members, that is Inner Wheel Club of Bombay Andheri East, and guests. Thank you, Vikram, for such an innovative and question answers, and the talk you have given is so nice and very well explained.
Thank you.
I, Bindra, 27th President of Inner Wheel Club of Bombay Andheri East, thanks Rotary Green City, Dr. Milind Kulkarni, to give us the opportunity to be the co-host for this talk. I thank Vikram, Dr. Vikram, which our club is doing. Firstly is Annapurna. We had donated 350 meals. Donation of green groceries for this pandemic year to the orphanage children of Sneha Sadan and underprivileged families. Donated smart TV to Sneha Sadan Orphanage for their studies. We organize competition, various competition. At present, we just finished the competition of Rakhi making with the underprivileged children.
Ji is there, and we can connect through her with your club. Thank you.
Yeah.
So now I request Daksha ji
I'll do that now.
for secretarial announcement and vote of thanks. Daksha, please.
Hello, everyone. This is my first time that I am announcing as a secretary of the club. So two interesting projects I want to share. You must know these projects because they are interesting. This had gone through Kargil, Ambala, and J&K, Jammu and Kashmir. So they had sent it to the police station. So I feel that this is a nice project which requires a little bit of, recognitions. Just because I like the project. And second thing, I would also like to tell that first time in our district, Indian Army is announcing that they want soldiers general duty, that is women military police. So for all the details are given, the last day to apply is online is 31st August. So whoever members present here interested can talk to any of the institutions or any underprivileged school, because the requirement is only 10th SSC marks and 10th standard and 45%. I'm going to post these details. So for the secretarial announcement, today is the birthday, I'm announcing the birthday of Jai Lakhani Amit Shah. Amit Shah is celebrating his birthday on 26th August. Jai Lakhani is celebrating on 28th August. And it's such a coincidence that both their spouses, that is Amit Shah's wife, Avadika, is celebrating on August 27th, her birthday. And Jai Lakhani's wife, Varsha, she's going to celebrate her birthday on 31st. We have, I would like to propose a vote of thanks first, and the last part of announcing how many finally we are on online Zoom. It is truly amazing, and I'm privileged to propose a vote of thanks to Dr. Vikram Patarnikene. This is a real beautiful understanding of what we look for as a human being, for enlightenment or for diet or for the combination of we being Hindus, I would say, or rather a human path, that we are combining Gita and Vedanta principles. Extremely happy to hear the question answers, because that is where the essence of your teachings also came out. And if our district official Arun Bhargava is there, I am very, very thankful to him. Innerville President Daljit and our members, Innerville Club of Andheri East, I am also belonging to them. Friends of Dr. Vikraman, if they are online, and everyone who is present here, I'm very, very thankful. Today our attendance is 40 when we started, and of course it has gone down to 21 right now. But extremely thankful to Lalit, Milind and Parvez Bhai for this Zoom meeting, co-hosting, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you everyone, and I'm ending this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Vikram.
Bye.